She smoking midgets, got me dizzy. I'm just saying, Saint Laurent. When this dust strain drops, it's a frenzy. Be careful how you talk. Nah, everybody friendly. I front you, you gon' pay me back. Everything just gon' be Fendi. Italy opened up the jar and it was empty. Ain't no wonder, blanket they ain't see me. Smoking, eat my stress. You depressing me, all that shit. You depressing me, probably by the spot. You depressing me, rolling pressure. What you saying, B? I was in the Volvo, but now I'm in the Tesla. Coulda gave up, but I had to do better. Trust me, I ain't worried, cause I got strong pressure. Fuck it, I'ma bless you. Did it for none, did it for likes. Under my zone, having the highs. Telling the lies, can't handle my God. Last time a girl lying, I was fried. Platinum with a run, she smoking bitches, got me dizzy. I'm just here Saint Laurent. When the string drop, it's a friend. Be careful how you talk. Platinum with a run, she smoking midget, got me dizzy. I'm just saying, Saint Laurent. When the string drop, it's a friend. Be careful how you talk. This is cool, we gon' ride high. This a joke, I got us like high. Talking shit, can't be my guy. I'm meant to D, can't turn back now. I'm meant to D, she got my back now. I had to pray to God for a chick. And Jesus Christ around my neck. Yeah, knowing what you said.
No, she can sit at my head.
Yeah, a lot of shit miss me. A lot of old people be dissing me. I'm passing, I'm clear.
Hey, yo, Carter, you going crazy.
And I'm with a run, so smoking, man, you get me. Yeah. By the time it's said and done, I'ma have a lot to be said. Yeah. When I was on the court, you know I just had to leave it on the court. Cause I didn't know when I was down or be ahead. Looking at the future, yeah. Sometimes it be looking dark and looking grim. I don't know if I'ma make it, I don't know. But like surgery, I'm praying to God. And you know I'm living anxious. I don't know what happened, I don't know what happened to love. What happened to friendship? We lost some closure. And people change, I didn't know what happened. I thought you was real, I thought you was a soldier. I thought you had to do this by myself. I had to go out by myself. They didn't believe that I would make it too. Looking at me when I was 22. Looking back at my life, I don't know where I would be. If it wasn't for the ones that were closest to me. So I keep it real with the ones around me. And I just look around me. And everything gotta be for a reason. I ain't worried about other shit, I'm leaving in the past. Moving forward through that 23 around the corner. Ready, run it up, I'm touching all the borders. On the side and coast, yeah, we gon' do the most, yeah. Take a trip, but stop in the middle of the highway. Taking pictures for a post, yeah. I'm eating steak, sipping drink, I'm living life, that's my lifestyle. And there was times when I didn't have nothing, I was looking down at the ground like God, why? Yeah. And he blessed me with the work of an achiever. Yeah. I told my mama that I would never leave her. We would take it to a new place and get the big old crib and just show them how we gon' live. One day, break generational curses. I see my mama hurting, and it hurt me too. So what the hell I look like failing? That cannot be me. I gotta run it up and I don't care if it get ugly. Yeah. Band's gonna be so big like a tree. Yeah. And that's gonna feel it hard with envy. Yeah. But fuck yeah, I'm prepared. Yeah. Keeping it real, swear that I ain't scared. Turning for the last time, I be by myself, smoking weed to have the best times. Yeah. I can tell the truth. Yeah, I don't know the same about you. I don't know, my life been crazy, and you seen it, you witnessed it. I've been under microscope since I was a kid. Yeah, trying to take it to the top, just watch how I live, and I'ma turn it to the top. Yeah, turn up the kid, turn me up. Yeah, I made movies like it was a DVD, but that's on some other shit. Yo. She call my phone and you know she wanna see me. Yeah, I'm on the board, yeah, I'm on the mother shit. Be right there. Lean more, another drink, and it's flowing through my body. Yeah, it's floating through my system. THC strong, yeah, blunt so strong, yeah, 2 of them. I came from where the liquor store to where the Wells Fargo. Little kid, I used to rock the cargo. Growing up to be a man. If you my fan, be my fan. Sorry if I lost you in my plan. God's grace, blessed to be 22. Friends come and go, but no one stayed down like my bro. I was lost doing the same old. Broke the chains cause I got bigger goals. Came from where the liquor store to where the Wells Fargo. Little kid, I used to rock the cargo. Growing up to be a man. If you my fan, be my fan. Sorry if I lost you in my plan.
This is a celebration of Irvo and his legacy and just the great things he's done in his life. Amen? Amen. So we'll get started with a word of prayer. Father God, we thank you for this time. We just ask you, God, to just bless this day, bless this family, and bless the legacy of Irvo. May we never forget how great he was. And on this day, God, we celebrate his life. So we thank you for all things. And we just ask you to have your way and guide us right now. As we remember his life, his legacy, and remember all of who he was. We thank you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, at this time, I will call up for introductions, acknowledgments, thank yous, Carolyn and Leon. Are you here?
That's right.
Carolyn and Leon?
That's right.
All right.
Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are so happy that you made time to come and join us today. The reason why we are gathered here today is to remember Irvo, but not only to remember him, to celebrate his life, to commemorate his legacy. As we look back, we also look forward. A lot has happened since we lost my beloved son. So much has happened in a short time. But I'd like to go back to where it all began, because some of you might not know what happened to Irvo. Oh, can you hear me? Oh, is that good? Yes. Oh, okay. Well, on March the 3rd of 2023, my son was in a mental health crisis. And Henrico Police took out an ECO. That's an emergency custody order. Because when you're in a crisis, sometimes you don't realize that you need treatment, that you need to go to the hospital. That's part of the disease. They took him to Henrico Doctors Hospital, and I followed, just like I had done on previous occasions. When we got to the hospital, I waited. The doctor came out, and saw me and said, well, we got Irvo. We are going to take care of him and treat him. That was my expectation. I sat at the reception, and at some time I walked up to the desk and asked to see my son. And the front desk of the hospital told me I couldn't go back there. And I asked why. And they said, well, he's back there with the police. And I said, well, call that officer for me. The officer came out and I asked him, I'm here. Irvo is my son. I need to see him. I need to support him. He needs me. And they impeded me. It's not only the police that impeded me. Henrico Doctors Hospital impeded me and denied me from getting back there to see my son. I didn't ask at that reception one time. I didn't ask 2 times. I was now pacing as a parent who is desperate to see her child. This continued for the longest time. So anyway, later on, Irvo was discharged from that hospital without me being told, yet I was right there. He was removed prematurely without getting the treatment that he needed, neither the stabilization that he needed. They prematurely discharged him and was taken to jail, Henrico Jail. At Henrico Jail, my son did not have access to medication. There was no doctor. So for 3 days, I was sat at that Henrico Jail without his medication. And I'm asking in my heart, what can I do to help? I visited, and I said, well, can I bring his medication? And I did take his medication. And I know that he was never given any medication. But then, you know, as I'm talking here, you get to think, where were the social workers? Where were the nurses? Where were the medical staff? Because there's medical staff even within those jails. Nobody tended to him. So he sat there, he deteriorated, and in 3 days, my son ended up dead. Irvo Otieno's death and what caused his death must never be a confusion. I would like for all of you to understand what killed Irvo. The Virginia medical examiner determined that Irvo Otieno's death was caused by positional and mechanical asphyxia with restraints. That's the determination then, and that's what holds to date. And the negligence of that Henrico Doctors Hospital. They had the capability, they had the resources to treat Irvo. They denied him. They denied him treatment that was due to him under the law. And so I will let someone else explain that, because as you all know, we are now pursuing Henrico Doctors Hospital with those hard questions. Why and what did you do for him in the time when he was in that hospital? He was at the hospital for 6 hours. He never saw a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So their gross negligence directly contributed to the death of my son. If it were not for their negligence, my son would have been treated and stabilized and come back home. We are thankful that God has put us in a position where we were able to ask those hard questions. And one thing that we were very serious about was that no matter what happens, Irvo's death was going to mean something. Irvo is bigger than his death. He had big dreams. He had ambitions. He was a loving child. He cared so much about social justice. He cared that others were treated right. And so we worked hard. It took a lot of work. You know, some of you in this room went with us to advocate for Irvo's law. So Irvo's law is now Virginia's law. And I'll let his brother explain what Irvo's law will do for you if you ever find, or a friend ever finds themselves in the same similar situation that my son was in. I tell Irvo's story in the hope that it can help others. I also know that by telling my son's story, I take that power back. We take that power. And make sure that his story is told accurately, because there were a lot of stories going on. But I think eventually, as we ask questions of this hospital, maybe we'll be able to get some answers. Those answers will never bring my son back, but those answers are very important for changes that might follow for those who live with mental illness. Thank you all so much for being here. I know you had to take time off your busy schedules to be with us today. It would have never been the same without all of you. I know Irvo is watching us all from heaven. So as we gather here today, we are not crying. I'm still very much in that mourning season. But today we are here to celebrate Irvo, the man. Celebrate him with the things that he loved. Celebrate him with the foods that he loved, the friends that he loved. Listen to his music, and even dance. Thank you all so much.
Can y'all hear me back there? Thank you, Mom. First and foremost, I would like to just say from the bottom of my heart and my family's heart, we feel very supported. Beyond just the legal battle, beyond measure, family and friends truly are the bond that keeps us going and moving and waking up and just facing another day. Because when I think about anything that has transpired, everything that we witnessed, and I think about how I would want to be remembered. Life is short. Life is very short, but it's also as long as you make it. But what makes it long is those memories that you generate with those you in your neighborhood, in your community, your friends and family. My mom has been a strong woman through all of this. And for her to still stand tall, 10 toes down, still advocate to make sure that no other family has to endure what our family has endured. Legislatively, stepping in those hallways, going through a lot of meetings, putting the language together, dealing with laws that will change how a loved one is treated while experiencing mental health crisis, which I'll let Alan do on that one. But just again, thank you from the back to the people in the back. Thank you so much. I see my brothers back there. Thank you in the front. Thank you to those who couldn't even make it here, because I know some of them did make it last year. Thank you to all those who might be watching this on stream. Thank you so much for taking your time, like my mom said, coming here and being a part of what we are referring to a legacy of a loved one in the family. We hope you enjoy the evening, and we hope you have great conversations with those who are here. Again, thank you so much from our family to yours.
All right, let's thank the family and the mother. Amen, the brother. Amen. It can't be easy to do what they just did, but just know that we're here. And as we saw the scripture at the graveside, if God is for you, who can be against you? Amen. At this time, we will have reflections from Reverend Alan Chipman. He doesn't have a reverend on here, but he is a reverend. Amen. Then we'll have the East End Law Group attorney Paul Curley, and then from the NAACP, Monica Hutchison, in that order. So we want to call up Reverend Alan Chipman.
First of all, Brother Doctor, Reverend Doctor, Brother Emmanuel, come up here for a second. For those that do not know who this brother is, this is a brother in arms in the work of justice, I would say. We worked on so many things together, including getting a brother who was over-sentenced out of prison, clemency, in times when people said, oh, I don't know if you can do that. That's impossible. They're not really doing that right now. We were able to do it through faith. We were able to change the trend of what people thought was possible. And this is what this brother does day in and day out. And so I just want to celebrate him and his strength. And that's, if you're saying, why is this brother here? Because I asked him to be here. Because it's important. We're going to need faith to continue this. I want to thank Brother Leon, Mother Caroline, so many of you all together, but specifically those two, because grief can do a lot of different things to different people. I've seen grief make people open up. I've seen grief make people close away. I've seen grief do a lot of things, but I think the way in which you all have handled the moment that you are in, and what I really, really love is that you understand grief can be very, very personal, but you also understand that the movement for justice for Brother Irvo, the movement for Virginians of mental health, is not just about your family. It's not just about what happened to Brother Irvo. And that is understanding that if we don't use our own voices, if we don't change the trend of what's happening to our loved ones, it can happen to so many different people. Whenever I go to one of the resting places of Brother Irvo, because we know where Brother Irvo is, and it talks about being a trendsetter. What we've been able to do in honoring the life of Brother Irvo and the legacy of Brother Irvo is that he is changing the trend on how everyone in this Commonwealth talks about mental health. The fact that Irvo's law was unanimous, that means everybody voted for it. People who the trend in their party was not to be concerned around how police are treating our people, that are not concerned about people who don't have the right amount of money to have their mental illness be treated as treatment. But the fact that everybody was able to see what happened and see Brother Irvo and say, I'm going to make something that goes against the trend. And Brother Vo called himself a trendsetter. Now everybody in the Commonwealth calls him a trendsetter. And that's because of the work we were able to do together. And so Irvo's law says that what happened to the injustice that happened to Mother Caroline and so many others that we've talked about in the Commonwealth that are kept out of the healing process of their loved ones, that you now have a right, not a suggestion, not a, but a right to continue to be involved in the healing process of your loved ones with mental health when they are in the hospital. And it's important that you know your rights. It's important that we continue that. As we are continuing this work, we've had pieces of legislation that we've worked on, but we really are trying to really keep the healing process in the hands of the healers and not in the hands of the harmers. Meaning that we want to make sure that if someone comes to a hospital and says, I need help, that they get help and they don't get harmed and they don't get sent to a place where they will deteriorate, which was the great injustice that happened to our dear brother Irvo. So, unfortunately, we could not get all of the wording that we wanted, but it still progresses forward. The bill did pass. The governor suggested an amendment that I'm not too crazy about, but what our good friends in the General Assembly were able to accomplish is that police will be trained. Now we have to work in making sure we, in our own legislative places, that we make sure that that is a required training and not just a suggestion. But training is available to let people know that there are special circumstances if someone comes under a mental health crisis, under a ECO or a TDO, that will allow them to remain, meaning that the police do not have to move them from the hospital to the prison. So that's a bit of progress. It's not as far as we would want it to go, but that's why there's another year, and that's why we continue to work on this trend of making sure that people get healing instead of harm when they're in a mental health crisis. And so, again, we'll be continuing with our Virginians for Mental Health, having town halls and hearing people that are wanting to see more protections for their loved ones. That's how the legacy of Brother Irvo continues. And we also want to tell our own story. Brother Vo was on the bench in honor of him. It says, your voice is dope. Your voice is strong. And there are a lot of things, in legal things that can sometimes constrain the voice, but I think it's time for us to tell the truth about what really happened. I know we talked about, when I talked with y'all last year, I said there's going to be a due process where the lawyers are going to do what the lawyers do, and there's going to be a new process where we do that. Ivo's law came out of the new process, and these other bills are coming out of this process. But it's important for us to know that there was as Mother Caroline said within the court, that there was a grave injustice and miscarriage of justice that occurred in that courtroom. A lot of people don't know that people who believed simply that black people's lives mattered were struck from the jury. People don't know that people that believed that police brutality is a problem in our society were struck from the jury. People don't know that the fact that the person that was involved in the killing of Brother Irvo Otieno the very next day assaulted another patient so much that his coworkers said this person is a problem. People don't know that information was withheld from the jury. So we talked about new process. We talked about due process. Right now, we need a true process. Because a narrative is happening that somehow is saying that this is an exaggeration. That Brother Leon and Miss Caroline, that they're just in it for the money. All these narratives that are coming out there, it's time to tell our story. And one thing about Brother Vo, this is a brother who rapped his own eulogy. I've never seen that before. But it's the importance of telling your story because somebody else will try to tell your story for you. So it's important for us to note that in light of the discouragements that are happening, that you can lie on the truth, but you can't change the truth into a lie. And so we're going to keep telling the truth. We're going to hold town halls for other people to hold their truth. We're going to put forward legislation based in truth so that we can, because the truth is that when people are in a mental health crisis, as Brother Leon said, they should receive help. That is the truth. It may not be the trend, but it's the truth. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Trumpet of Conscience, he talks about convenience acts, is it popular? Selfishness acts, is it beneficial? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And so we are living in a time where people are wondering if it's trendy versus asking, is it right? And so as we represent the trendsetter, Brother Irvo, we're going to ask, is it right? Because we say if somebody is struggling and needs some help with their own mind, it's right that they get help. When we put forward legislation that can help everybody in our Commonwealth to have access to their loved ones, if it's trendy or not, it's right. If we are asking for people to not be moved from a prison because the best place for them to recover is in a hospital, whether the governor thinks it's going to help them run for president or not, it's the right thing to do, whether the governor chooses to do it or not. And so it's important for us to be a community of conscience. It is up to us to allow and continue the legacy of Brother Irvo to say that we're going to change the trend. I don't care what they're pulling up in the streets of Washington, D.C., Brother Irvo's life mattered. And all of our lives matter. And Dr. King said that our lives begin to end when we become silent about the things that matter. This is a movement for justice that is about what is right, not about what is trendy. And when the trend says it's against us, like Brother Irvo, we're going to set a new trend. We're going to be trendsetters because Brother Irvo was a trendsetter. And so I just want to thank each and every one of you who showed up to the meetings, to those of you who helped us to show that this is a process that's bigger than us. That's how you all helped us to set a new trend. And so I want us to celebrate today as well, that there is a new trend in the Commonwealth, that mental health is not a partisan issue, it's a human issue. And so this is what we've accomplished together. This is what we will continue to accomplish. And so when you see a town hall coming to a city near you, make sure that you come on out. Make sure you speak your truth. Make sure that you set the narrative straight. And make sure that we continue to be a trend of being people who love on Brother Leon, Mother Caroline, and the family. And so I hope that you all feel supported. I hope that you all feel loved. It's been an honor of my life to help continue to set the trend that Brother Irvo did. And I'm the son of a preacher, and I can speak a really long time. But Brother Leon, is there anything else that you would like for me to share with the people? Mother Caroline? All hearts and minds clear? But no, seriously, thank you all for showing up. Thank you all for the calls. Thanks for everybody in the WhatsApp group that says, hey, look what's going on here. That as we look out into the world, I want you to know that one of the things we can celebrate is that we've built a community of trendsetters. And I look forward to all the people who we may not meet from generations to come, that because of Brother Irvo can have a different response that isn't trendy, but is right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Curley. I'm an attorney with the 6 East Law Group. I wasn't expecting to speak at all tonight. In fact, I texted Caroline and asked what I should wear, and she didn't respond, so I'm thankful that I didn't wear Adam Sandler gear this evening. Thank you, Leon, and thank you, Caroline, for having me. I told them that I was up late last night filing a brief in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in the Charles Byers case. I don't know if you all are familiar with the Charles Byers case, but he was the gentleman, 34 years old, who was under a temporary detention order, who was shot by Chesterfield police. That case is still going on. It's been appealed by the Chesterfield Police Department to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Again, I don't know how familiar you are, and I don't mean to take attention away from Irvo, but it's all the same subject. And it's the subject of mentally ill patients. Basically, the issue as I see it, and I've been involved in these cases since the 90s, is that mentally ill patients are treated like criminals. right from the beginning, they go and they seek mental health care, and they're immediately treated like criminals. And part of the reason for that is that the hospitals are so interested in profit that they're not hiring enough qualified staff to work the hospitals. So what they do is that they enter into partnerships with the local police departments, like Chippenham, and it's all the same, largely the same hospital group, HCA. HCA is the largest hospital group in the United States, in the world probably. They make billions in profits every single year. And they do that by cutting back on the staff that's necessary to care for their patients. So somebody goes in desperately needing mental health care, and they're met with an emergency room physician who is a year out of medical school and doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Excuse my language. And unfortunately, they don't know enough to go to a psychiatrist, somebody who knows what they're doing. So what happens is the patients end up being treated by police, invariably. Charles Byers went into the hospital voluntarily at 4:30 p.m. and he was hearing voices. He was seeing things. He noticed that he needed help. He went into the hospital and he was surrounded by police. And this is a little bit of a different story because there wasn't as much fighting within the room. But the city of Richmond, what happens is the hospital staff hires the police and they direct the police as to what to do. There are many federal laws for the protection of mental health patients. And the hospital staff are relatively aware of the limits to which they can go. You know, they can't handcuff people. They can't constrain them with handcuffs. So what they do is they hire the police. They don't tell the police about the federal statutes. And then they use the police to handcuff the patients. And they look the other way. So what ends up happening is these patients go in, they get handcuffed to a bed. They're never seen by a psychiatrist. Charles Byers was never seen by a psychiatrist. Irvo was never seen by a psychiatrist, which is disgusting, excuse me. He went into a hospital needing mental health care. Mental fucking health, I'm sorry. And he was seen by an emergency room physician who didn't give a shit. He just gave the care over to the police. Let the police handle it. And the police handled it because the way they see it is, let's treat these people as to be fair to the staff. They have hard jobs. They go in every day. They're underpaid. They want to go to lunch. They're dealing with this situation all the time. It's a lot for them to handle. Let's be fair to them. It's not them. It's the board of directors. It's the people who oversee them. It's the supervisors. It's the people who hire everybody. That's the important part. The staff is going to work and doing their job. But what they don't see is what happens to these patients after. Charles Byers was in the street in Chesterfield and got shot by the police. He was delusional. He was still under a TDO. He was delusional. He was wandering around trying to find his home because he walked. He walked from the city of Richmond jail 14 miles to his house and wandered around and found a small hatchet, had a hatchet in his hand, like this, one of those things you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's. he was holding it by his side. Chesterfield got there, and they jumped out of the car, and immediately he's someone suffering from psychosis. And they jump out of the car, and they just start going after him. Drop the hatchet, drop the hatchet, drop the hatchet. They tased him, missed. And then the officer, who had been involved in several other cases involving excessive use of force against citizens, gunned him down, shot him 7 times. He was 25 feet away. And Chesterfield, for some reason, I mean, I'll send out the body cam video. Watch it. It's the worst thing you'll ever see. Everyone I've shown it to is like, holy crap, I can't believe that man was shot. But he was. And the only people who don't see it is the Chesterfield County Police Department. It's absolutely unbelievable. In Irvo's case, I mean, I know that's why we're here, but you have to understand, I was up all last night. This is all I was thinking about. So my brain is a little full of the Byers case, and I apologize. But I mean, the very first, it's not so much a problem with the psychiatric community. And let me be honest, this is how I got into these cases initially, is I have a family member who is psychotic, who has the same condition as Irvo. So I understand. And if you've ever had a family member who is having a mental breakdown, you just don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. Because not only will they take down their lives, they will take your life down. So you start freaking out because you don't know what to do, where to send them, how to handle the situation. And that's why there are so many homeless people on the street. I don't mean to go into too many subjects. But the homeless people, by and large, know. They've seen it. They've been in these hospitals, and they understand. They're afraid to go in there. Because if you walk into one of these triage centers or crisis centers, it's a jail. It's a jail. There's 10 police officers and 1 LPN. And that's it. And that's who, and you're desperately in need of care. And you walk in and there's a licensed professional nurse who's doing the best she can, but she can't help you. And that's what needs to change. And that's why I'm so happy that stuff like this is happening, because I mean it just, the system just desperately needs to change. I don't have all the answers. I can see the problem. I can definitely see the problem, and I've seen it for a long time. I don't know how to fix it. I wish I did. I wish I had the answers. But the answers come from stuff like this, talking about it, because it was always, I have to be honest, since the 90s, I've been afraid to talk to a jury in a case involving mental illness, because even juries have problems with that. I mean, you take the issue, always in the back of the mind, well, they're crazy, and it's like, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. It needs to be brought out into the open so much more. And I'm so glad for stuff like this, even though I really didn't know what this was about today. But I'm so incredibly happy that you're doing this, and I hope the Byers get this opportunity when I beat the shit out of Chesterfield in the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals. Oh my God. But I'm happy to represent Leon and Caroline and honor Irvo's life. The case, 5 seconds on the case. It's basically a case brought under the. It's called the ETMA LA. the Emergency Treatment and Labor Act. I think that's right. The EMTALA. And what it requires, and it's an anti-dumping statute. What it means is basically you can't go into an emergency room and they turn you away. They say, no, we're not going to take you. The requirements are pretty simple. They need to assess your condition. And if you have an emergency condition, they must stabilize your emergency condition. It's required under federal law. And what it stops the emergency rooms from doing is throwing people out of the hospital. They have to do it. It's required. And that's the problem in this case, is they never stabilized Irvo. They allowed the police, they had the resources. Again, this is the largest healthcare organization in the world. So I can't wait for them to claim that they didn't have the resources. That's going to be a great argument for them. But they did, and they do, and they didn't. They didn't treat him. Everyone's seen the video. Everyone's seen what happened to him, and it's wow. It's hard to watch. All these things are just so difficult to watch. I mean, particularly if you have a family member who has mental illness, it's so difficult. And the only one who can talk more than a reverend is a lawyer. And I apologize, and I hope y'all get to dinner. And again, Caroline and Leon, thank you so much for having me, and have a great dinner, y'all.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Hutchinson, and I am the president for Henrico County NAACP. We are the home of grassroots activism for civil rights and social justice. We advocate, agitate, and litigate for the civil rights that are due to Black America. We are the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization in this country. And our strength lies in the hearts and minds of all those who have refused to stand idly by while race-based prejudice harms our community. In the Henrico branch, we have and will continue to fight to ensure that there are services in place at critical points for someone in crisis, which are needed to move people away from the criminal justice system and instead give them the support and services that they may need. A mental health crisis should never be a death sentence. We shouldn't have to think twice about calling for help for our loved ones or ourselves, and yet we do. As a mom of Black sons, I just pray different. Mothers of Black children, especially mothers of Black sons, do. We have a lot of work to do. Police are simply not a substitute for compassionate and informed mental health professionals. Rather than neglecting and criminalizing the Black community, we need action to make sure no one experiences or witnesses this kind of violence at the hands of law enforcement ever again. This has to end here. We are done dying. We are 2,200 chapters strong across America. Together, we will remain vigilant in our mission until the promise of America is made real for all. While this will happen too late to save Irvo's life, we are going to fight like hell to make sure that this doesn't happen to someone else, especially in our community. We are honored to be in this fight with the family. Miss Caroline, I'm not sure who you are. You are just amazing, an inspiration, and just knowing that you are standing 10 toes down, right? 10 toes down, right? To make sure that people don't forget and that this doesn't happen again. And like I said, in this fight, absolutely honored to be beside you. Whatever you need, just know that myself and our branch will always be here for you and your family as we continue fighting for justice for Irvo. So if anyone lives in Henrico, please, right? We know there's strength in numbers. Reach out to me, contact me. We would love to have you join our branch. There's a lot of work to be done. And I need foot soldiers to ensure that we continue fighting for our community. So with that being said, and please, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
I had no prepared comments. I was coming to support the family. I've worked with Irvo for about 3 to 4 years. We had a very good relationship. I choke up when I think about what happened to him because I wish I had been informed of what was going on and been available, because I could have gone to the ER and Irvo would be Dr. Selman, rather than people who don't know what a great guy he was. Gentle, wonderful, loving. Anyway, I would tell Mr. Curley and other folks that I've been in Richmond for, you can tell by many years doing psychiatry. We do child, adolescent, adult work, a lot of medical, legal issues, brain injuries, drug addiction. I have a good group of team working with me. My secretary's been with me for 32 years. So, and I'm also a professor at the medical school. So maybe if one of the reasons I came out tonight was to formally offer maybe the resources that I could advance medically, psychiatrically, to help with not only with this issue with Irvo's, but also with all the other issues, because we've had many patients who've been injured or killed in the past without any rationality of handling that project or that incident with guidance. I know the police have some training, but they need to have a lot more support than they're getting. So these could be some things we could talk about. But I'm honored to be here, and Irvo was one of my favorite folks. He would always brighten up when he saw me. We'd hug each other. Anyway, thank you.
I want you to know who I am. I'm just a pastor. I've been pastoring for 21 years, and I have been in the ministry for 32. But people ask me, are you going to get into politics? I said no. But when I look into my congregation, I know people have all kinds of struggles. And if it affects anybody in the congregation, it affects me. And I've been doing prison ministry for 32 years, and you'd be surprised. I would say most of the population in prison, unfortunately, is African American. We're 19% of the population in Virginia, but 58% of the prison population. And when you account for addiction and mental illness, it's probably 60 or 70, maybe even 80% of the population. People who need treatment are being locked up. And it didn't just start happening. It's been happening long as I've been alive, and I'm 53. And it's probably even before that. So that's my passion. That's why I care. And that's why I just believe that we got to fight this evil as long as we have to keep fighting it. And this family is so bold not to just say it's over, but to fight for others. So they deserve an applaud, just right now, because they understand it's not just about them. But I'm a preacher I can talk to, so I'm going to let everybody else come on up. So.
Before I say a few words, I'd like to show you a picture that I have of my son Jack and Ivor. When I was writing these words, these are the faces that I saw in my mind. They were quite dapper dressers. I don't know if you can see that, but I think they were in 10th grade when that was taken before a dance. I want to thank Caroline and Leon for inviting me here today to share my story. I think it is important to remember those people, those special people in our lives who we have loved and lost. And when that loss is surrounded by tragedy and injustice, it is important to have the support of friends and family around us when we reflect and celebrate those lives. Ivor is that special person that we remember here today. Ivor was a good friend to my son Jack in high school. I sometimes think of Jack, Ivo, and their friend Zach as the three musketeers sharing adventures. On one occasion, they all came to our house before one of the big school dances, and I asked them, "Why aren't you going to the dance with dates?" And Ivor happily said, "That way we can dance with more girls." Of course, it made perfect sense. I remember them piling into my minivan after 2-a-day football practices. These are the practices that are held before the season starts. It's 100 degrees outside, and they're pretty much soaking wet when I come to pick them up. They were so exhausted but excited about the upcoming season. And I knew these were not just teammates, but good friends. I also can never forget having to roll down all the windows in my van because of those smelly pads that never quite made it to the wash. By their senior year, I could barely fit 4 of them wearing all of their football gear inside my van. Many of us remember Ivo as the big athletic young man whose physical presence reflected strength, determination, and confidence. And that was true, whether he was in the classroom, on the football field, or the basketball court. This determination led him to a successful high school career, a college scholarship, and then on to a budding career in the music industry. I have no doubt that we would be celebrating even more successes if he were here with us today. But I'm here to remember something bigger than Ivor's physical presence. I am remembering his big heart. This is reflected in his many friends here and those who surrounded him throughout his life. I remember his big hugs whenever he came for a visit to our home, and the big handshakes he offered to my husband and anyone new he would meet. I remember his big smile that never left his face whenever I saw him. I also remember his big appetite. As a mom and nurturer, I can't tell you how happy it made me when Ivo joined us for a meal. He would always say, "Thank you, Mrs. Clater. This is so delicious. And may I have some more of that?" It was truly music to my ears. But the biggest thing I remember about Ivor was his love for his mom and his brother. No matter what he was doing or who he was with, they were always close by in his thoughts and in his heart. He was so proud to be Caroline's son and Leon's brother. They were the joy in his life and the comfort for his soul. They are the reason we are here celebrating such a special young man. Thank you, Caroline, for inviting me here and reminding me of the importance of remembering those who were part of our lives, who we have loved and lost, but who can still bring us happiness and comfort when we remember our times together. And in Ivo's case, remembering his big smile. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paula Brown. I was Ivo's English teacher at Douglas Freeman. I'm the only thing standing between you all and that great food back there, so I'm going to be really brief. Those emanating smells are wonderful. So I kind of represent the Freeman community, I guess you would say, which has stood strong in support of all these actions and all the work that the family has done. A work of the heart, just back and forth downtown to all the meetings, I was privileged to be in some of those, and I've learned a lot. Alan has mentioned to us tonight to keep the story alive. So that's what I do. I tell stories. You know, I'm an English teacher. And Ivor loved stories. He didn't mind when I assigned the memorization of the poetry. He loved poetry, and of course that makes perfect sense. He was a musician, and he continued with that and made that a part of what that was his talent that he was giving the world when his life was cut short. Class of 2013 of Douglas Freeman High School, shout out to you guys, okay? That class was, as my father would say, as strong as new rope. And you can tell that because look at them. They're still coming back to support the family. My time with Ivor was through 2013. And yet, it goes on. Here we are, 2025, and my time with Ivor is tonight, largely because of Caroline and Leon keeping his memory alive, making his life count for something so important. And we're going on here together. All of you, I feel connected with now because of him. And all I want to ask is that we continue to honor and uplift his name as his family has done so admirably, so beautifully, so inspirationally. And thank you for letting me just say that I want that to continue, and I'll look forward to working with all of you all always. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not going to be before you very long. I would like to begin by let's give Mother Caroline and Leon another rounding applause. I tell you, I do not have children, but I could only imagine what the pain and the anguish that someone such as Miss Caroline, as a mother, has had to endure. It's been 2 years, y'all. Am I correct on that? Has it been 2 years, Leon? And from the funeral, and it's so good to see so many familiar faces from the funeral to the first reception to today. Also those that stood in solidarity and at those court cases. God is still good, and he will still prevail even in that situation. It's unbelievable to even think and fathom that in this day and time in 2025 that we are still living as though we are in 1935 or 45. But there is still a God who has the last word and the last say. Working with in my professional background, I deal in the health care field. So I've worked with the mentally ill, I've worked with those with developmental disabilities, and I have also worked in policies and procedures and regulations. I have worked in residential settings, hospital settings, even mental health hospital settings. And I am close to 50. So I have years of experience. I recently had the opportunity to work with our incarcerated. So when Pastor Harris mentioned when we were at the cemetery about the needs of our incarcerated with where there is the substance abuse and the mental illness being top tier as far as needs. We have staff, and living in this country, we have money. But when I look at the media, when I saw something when Alan mentioned trending, what was trending last week was I think it was what is his name, the billionaire Bill Gates came out with a comment that AI will be replacing nurses and teachers in the next 5 years. Hear me when I say that. Let me say that again on repeat. Bill Gates said that AI will be replacing teachers and nurses in 5 years. Let me tell you something. When we are dealing with human beings and people, we need people contact. No computer generated, no robot. If human beings are having difficulties and challenges relating to other human beings, what is AI and computers and robots going to do? Working in the health and human services field, there are key words in just that, in human health and human services. Health is defined as the state of being free from illness or injury. That's health. Human, relating to or characteristic of people or human beings. Services, the action of helping or doing work for someone. Anyone working in the health and human services field should be able to serve in those capacities, meaning you must have compassion. You must have a caring heart, where sometimes even if you're trained by the book, you have to also apply some logic. If I see an incarcerated man laying on the floor with no life, chest compressions not working, and I jump in and I assist and gave a rescue breath without a breathing barrier, that was my compassion. That's who I am. That is a correct characteristic that I possess that came from God. But then you get chastised on the back end from administration saying that you're doing too much. We're living in a day and age where it's all about administrative work, paper and money. Push the paper, we don't care about people. I was just in Richmond. I live in Chesterfield County, so I know what Attorney Curley is talking about. Good luck with that case. And I love Chesterfield County, but I'm in Richmond traveling through. My GPS sent me through one of the housing developments in that area, and there's a young man kind of contorted, laying in the street. Our people have actually, our community has actually become immune to death, to sickness, to mental illness. I'm looking at the number of people that actually just drove by this man and walked by him. I immediately jumped out the car, and somebody else was with me, and there was 2 young ladies standing over his body. And I said, is everything okay? And they said, well, we don't know. We just got here. Well, is he breathing? I don't know. Okay, let's check. Checked him out. He was breathing, shallow breathing. I said, let's call 911. I got to call 911, but let me jump and go get the Narcan out my trunk, because he had white coming out of his nose. I looked at him. I didn't see any blood. That doesn't always mean anything. So I noticed that he had all his jewelry on and expensive shoes, so I said it didn't look like a robbery. This looks like an overdose, but I'm not a doctor, a medical doctor. So the young lady said, I'm going to go get my Narcan. I'm thinking she going to her car. She takes off in the car with another young lady, and I was like, but darn, where is she going? So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, is she part of the situation here? So I called 911, got 911 on the phone. Then she came back, rushing back with her Narcan. She asked me, should I give it to him? I said, yeah, he need everything he can get. But the point is, we are living in a society that do not care about human life. We see it so much. You see all this graphic on television that you become immune to real life situations. And sometimes some people just don't know what to do. If you don't know what to do, you call 911. And unfortunately, sometimes our 911 professionals don't show any empathy. They're kind of rough and abrasive, whether it's the police or those working in medic. And I love all of those that work in that profession. But it's a sad day when we work in professions in health and human services fields and we're told we're doing too much. Well, you know what? I wasn't hired to just be a paper pusher. And I'm darn good at my job and what I do. But I care and I do go that extra mile because I could be saving a life. It means a lot. Sometimes an encouraging word or going that extra mile and giving them a congratulations that you personally made. I thank God for our teachers and our nurses and those attorneys and our pastors that are doing the job and our advocates and our civic organizations. But it's unfortunate that we have an industry out here that is destructive. And it is interesting to me, those bad players and those bad seeds, like the ones that sat on poor Irvo, and his psychiatrist said that he wished, and he got so full of emotion, he said, I wish I was there. I wish they could have called me. You keeping families away. And I'm going to tell you something about whether you're working with an inmate or with a patient. Once they get attached to that one employee or that one staff person that they can rely on, that one person is that key component to helping them to de-escalate that situation every time. But when you keep that person away, or you fire that person, or you separate them from that person when you can't even get to the medication, you're doing yourself a disservice and that individual and their family, and it needs to stop. I thank God for the Irvo law. It was needed and it was necessary. The only reason why I wasn't down at General Assembly is because of the position I had, and I was traveling to and fro Monday through Friday. I had to make sure those individuals had their supports. But everybody don't care. They don't care about the people, whether they're incarcerated, whether they're mentally ill. They barely caring for the loved ones that are just in the hospital for a regular procedure because they're so short-staffed. Can't keep nobody after COVID. The takeaway is, and I'm going to tell you, Irvo was a legend in his own right. Mother Caroline, don't feel bad that he passed away in his 20s. We had some other greats that passed away in their 20s, and they were legends. Martin Luther King wasn't in his 20s, but he was in his 40s, but he was a great. Minister Farrakhan, he died at an early age, but he was a great. Medgar Evers, another great. It's not at the time of death how many years you live, although we want to hold on to these individuals in our life. What did you do in between, in that dash? What did you do in that dash? I'm going to continue striving. I'm going to continue speaking up for those that I serve. I will not stay on the sidelines. I've never been that girl. Continue to fight. We're this is one step closer to helping many others, even in this world and in this country. There's a lot going on. Thank you for those that continue to support and come out, because it does take a village. We have to hold people in these industries accountable. You continue to do what's right for those that are doing right. Don't let nobody intimidate you. Because that's what they're doing. They've been doing that. The doctors and the nurses that are there, they know what to do. Even when you have a shortage, you give the best quality of care that you can give, and you use common sense. If something don't look right, you come in a room and you see somebody, vitals hadn't been checked, and somebody's sitting on them and they struggling. Common sense is get them some help. You don't know what you're doing. You're not the one for the job. I apologize, but it burns me up because I know these crooks. I'm going to end on that note, but it's a sad day when you have administrators telling you you're doing too much. You ain't doing too much. My last word is we ain't doing enough, and we just getting started.
Thank you very much. A lot has been said, so I'm going to keep it short. As I stand here, I'm very proud. I'm very proud. And the reason why I'm proud is because a sad moment has indeed been turned into a proud moment. Irvo's law has indeed saved lives already. I've worked in the mental health field for over 10 years in Virginia as a licensed professional, and one of the biggest gaps that existed in the crisis stabilization of patients was the collaboration between providers, and specifically the care providers, the family members who provided care to individuals, and the professionals at the institutions. There existed a big gap there that was bridged by this law. That's one of the biggest gaps that existed in crisis stabilization. And of course, this is needed not just during crisis stabilization, it's needed in preventative care as well as post-crisis stabilization, as people who have been discharged continue to receive care that they need. Another gap or another challenge that we face with mental health, obviously, you know, is the stigma that comes with it, especially in our community. There is not enough awareness. We don't talk enough about mental illness. It is indeed a pandemic, in my opinion, that doesn't get enough attention. We don't speak enough about it. If it was a virus, we would be walking around with masks and sanitizers. But because we are not talking about it, we are not getting the attention that we need to have. We don't have all hands on deck. And so I'm proud of this achievement, but it's by no means enough. There's a lot more to go to get to where we need to get to. So whenever you are out, encourage others to talk about mental illness. When we move into a new neighborhood and you have a kid who has some challenges, make it okay to talk to your neighbors about the kid. Explain the symptoms. Let's talk about symptoms of mental illness. Let's talk about behaviors that triggers that may trigger individuals with mental illness to behave a certain way. Let's make it normal to talk about this, not only in our neighborhoods, but anytime we gather, we want to be able to desensitize people from this stigma that has made this pandemic go undetected, and it still does to this day. We know that another gap that exists today is the service we don't have enough access to care. And I want to specifically highlight the fact that we don't have what we call culturally competent care. And by that, I mean that the individuals that sometimes serve us are not socially aware of our surroundings. So you need caregivers who are culturally in tune with the population that they are serving. And this leads to more compassion from the people who are giving care. These kinds of jobs require compassion. People who serve, whether they are teachers, nurses, know that whenever you are serving people, you need to serve them with compassion. And I know that there is a lot of burnout due to overload by providers who are trying to provide care to, more people sometimes than they can handle. But I think that we need to establish and encourage more of people who are more socially or culturally aware with our surroundings to get into the business of providing care. There are opportunities there to do so with the state and as well as the local government. So that needs to be looked into. And finally, as I conclude, I just want to say that when the only tool you have in your toolbox is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail, right? So whether it's law enforcement or providers at home, family, they all need training to de-escalate. There's no reason for us to train people to restrain when we haven't trained them to de-escalate, right? So these tools should be provided not just to the first responders, but also to the people who are there during pre- and post-crisis situations. And that's all I have today to share, to keep from repeating what everyone else has already shared. My only one homework for everyone is to ask you to look up a non-emergency number that you can call during a crisis situation and share it with someone. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roger Biero. I was one of Irvo's friends. So, real quick, not that all the other stuff is not important, it's very important, but I'm going to just dial it back to Irvo. Can you hear me in the back? Yes. So, even though we miss his presence, his spirit lives in all of us through every act of kindness. Irvo is one of the few people that can actually say that they left this world a little better than they found it. And that's evident through Irvo's law and all the people it will help. I know the work is ongoing. And, his legacy will continue. So, just one more thing. Legends never die. Thank you.
Caroline, Leon, my Nyuendena, Nyawanana, Kim and David. When I say Nyawanana, that's a very important person to me. Thank you so much for making it here. Family, friends, relatives, colleagues, Good evening. My name is Millicent. I'm Irvo's auntie. For those who understand Luo, and Japite, Japidi, Japidi Kopeo Luro. That means that my side is bruised because I carried a child on it for so long. In my culture, we say, Japidi Kope Oluro. It means she or he who carries a child has a bruised side, because we carry our children on our side or on our backs, and we don't have all those straps for strapping them comfortably. No, we just carry them. And that's what we did with Irvo. We literally just carried him, and and he did everything on you. And Caroline, I admire your courage, your 10 feet down, and your strength, even in seeking justice for Irvo. And may God grant that justice. Already, Irvo's legacy is affecting very, very many in many ways, both family and friends and neighbors and the community at large. I'm an educator, and one thing I can tell you is that we struggle with young people who have mental crisis, and many times the teachers and even their families are not aware that they have mental crisis until it is too late. And for me, this whole journey has taught me to use this information to impact the 3,000 teachers that I get to talk to and to supervise, and to always talk about mental well-being. Ever since this happened, I'm very passionate about mental well-being among young people, and even among those children who are under 6 years. Because if not taken seriously at that level, sometimes problems start very early, and we need to address them even from that level. And as the young people grow into their primary, we call it primary school, and secondary school, all parents, all caregivers need to really take mental health seriously. Somebody said that there is a lot of stigma attached to it. Yes, it is true. And sometimes there's a lot of denial. Many people don't want to agree. And when we, in schools, when we tell parents to take their children for assessment, some parents don't want it because they say, no, my child can't be sick. So as we sit here, as we remember Irvo tonight, go back, look at your family, look at your community, and just be on the lookout that if there is any suspicion of mental illness among those that you know, kindly let us handle it in the best way possible so that they can get the right help before it is too late, before they go outside there and people mistake them and people don't understand them and something wrong happens. So I just want to say that I represent the family from Caroline's side. I'm Caroline's sister. I follow her. And when I came all the way, all those miles to be in this function, I was celebrating because Irvo's law is going to touch the lives of many. And I know many other laws will be passed that are identical to that, because I'm not a lawyer, but I know there is always some precedence, isn't it, that leads to other laws being passed that are kind of similar. But above all, may I recognize the family members who are here, Nyawanana, Kim, and David. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have Marlene, my daughter. I have Susan, my daughter. I have my grandchildren. I have Leon, my son. Then I have my grandchildren, Julian. I have Jade. I have Jael. And I have Hudson. And I have my daughter, Jen. Thank you so much. And everybody else, may God bless you so much. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Caroline and Leon, for inviting me. About a month before Irvo passed away, my son passed away while having a mental health crisis in the custody of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And so I feel what Caroline feels. And I've adapted a poem for her, and I'd like to share it with you. It's called Dearest Caroline, Mother of Irvo. For 2 years now, you've carried the weight of a heartbroken mother fighting fate. Irvo Otino, your son, his eyes so bright, taken too soon by a thief in the dark night. Injustice stole Irvo from your arms, yet you rise despite the harms. Your pain is real, your grief so deep, yet in your heart burns a fire that you keep. Your voice echoes where others fall. You are a beacon of hope, like a clarion call. You've lifted others despite your own despair. You've shown us how to fight, to care. Through 2 years with courage, you've shown us all. You stand, you rise, you make the call. Dearest Caroline, mother of Irvo, you are an inspiration true, shining the light of a mother's love that they can never subdue. We love you, Caroline, more than words can say. Your courage lights the darkest way. For you, for Irvo, we stand, we fight. With you, we'll chase the endless night. You are not alone. Your strength is our song. Dearest Caroline, mother of Irvo, you carry us all along. And in your heart, we find our way to honor Irvo on this day. Injustice may have taken Irvo's life, but your purpose-filled spirit, Caroline, is free of strife. You are a fearless warrior, a beloved mother, a beautiful queen. With a voice for justice, you are both heard and seen. We thank you for your courage and your commitment and your fight. Thank you.
My name is Malik Lawrence. I'm a dear friend of Ivor's, was a dear friend of Ivor's. We met in 7th grade in Mr. Marshall class, I believe. And I'm not trying to get off subject, but I got to do my own thing, you know what I mean? And I feel like we've talked so much about mental health, which is very important, and I don't take that lightly, especially when it comes to Ivor. But I have to speak on this man's character, y'all. And I would say in 7th grade when I met this man in class, we looked at each other, not too many black kids in the class, right? So we're looking at each other, right? And we we're just eyeing each other for like 45 minutes. And then after class, he was like, bro, where do I know you from? And I was like, do you hoop? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, I think we played against each other somewhere sometime. And then I didn't see him, I saw him the next day, we was cool. And then I think a few weeks later, because I was just trying to find, I was new to that side of town, moved from the east end and north side of Richmond to the west end. And I had no friends at all. I think Golden was one of the first few people I met too, also in that same block or same period. And I remember our first time at the YMCA off Patterson Avenue, not too far from here. And I remember he picked me to be on his team. And from that point on, from 7th grade probably through 12th grade, I don't think Ivor, there was ever a time where he had to pick a squad, because he was always the captain. Ivor was always the man. Ivor was the man at sports. I want everybody to know. The man could hoop, he was good at football, he could do anything he could put his mind to. And because I know that, we speak on the mental health part, but this man was an athlete, he was an honor roll student, he was very intelligent. You understand? This man could do anything. You know what I'm saying? And I thank God that Miss Caroline and Leon was able to share him with us. It's truly a gem in my life, someone I would never forget. And if I could speak to him right now, I'd be like, bro, thank you so much. Thank you for being a true friend. True friends are hard to come by. And Ivor was just the best friend, a dear friend. He will lift you. He'll know if you're down. I'll go a week without talking to Ivor. Let's say it's the summertime. I'm in my little shell off Patterson Avenue, not talking to nobody, being antisocial or whatever. And Ivor would just hit me up out of nowhere, yo, come outside, what you doing? Come to the Y, come do something, you know what I mean? And this is no one like him. He's just such a unique soul, and a unique spirit. And I truly miss him. I wish the last couple years of our life we had talked more. I would say I think the last time we text or talked was probably probably the end of 2021. So I regret that a year had gone by, or a year and 4 months had gone by, then he passed away, and we didn't get to reconnect in that year and 4 months. But I truly cherish so many moments, so many wild moments in high school, stuff we should not have been doing, you know what I mean? And it's just, but I thank him because, I have those memories to cherish. And I look at my friendship with Golden, my friendship with Jack, especially with John and Asa and Jimmy and, the whole crew and everybody. I would not know any of those dudes without Ivor. I would have had no friends without Ivor. And I feel like a part of my character and a part of my boldness in life and how I'm just unafraid to approach any situation comes from Ivor, because he was so bold. This man was the boldest man you could ever meet, for real. Ask Golden, Ivor was bold, man. But yeah, man, if I could speak to him, back to that, if I could speak to him, I would say, thank you, brother. I love you dearly. And I can't wait till we meet again, So thank y'all.
How's everybody doing? That was the reason that I actually came up here. I was sitting in my seat burning. I was like, oh man, we're talking about these policies and, everything that's going on right now. And I really, I remember, going to Ivor's funeral, and, the part that stuck out to me was when people that knew him were talking about him and his character, their experience being his friend. All right, so, first off, the utmost love and respect and admiration for Mama Caroline and Brother Leon. I met Ivor when I was 10 years old. Miss Caroline, she knew my parents, and I think he worked with my father for a little bit. And I met Ivor then, but from that point up until 9th grade, we never talked. We were just high and by friends. And it was really cool because, he's just when I actually got to class with him in 9th grade, I think I was 13, 14 years old, it was like we were best friends immediately. He always made you feel like he knew you. He welcomed you in his arms. And I thought that was so cool. I never really knew too many people like that. And, I now know that's what's called the love of God. All right. So, moving forward, like Malik said, he really, kind of pushed you out of your shell to get you to be more of yourself, because you could tell he was very much himself. And I love that because, we live in a world in a day and age where everybody's so scared to, be who they truly are. But you felt so calm, you felt so comfortable. I remember him just opening up his home, even when I felt like, oh, well, is your mom going to be okay with me coming to your house? He was like, come on, man, don't worry about that. I remember Miss Caroline making samosas, and I had allergies. I didn't know what was in it. And he said, what's wrong with you, man? I was like, I don't know. But anyways, she always cooked the best food, and we played video games with Jack, Miss Clater. Oh my gosh, so many good times just with Ivor, so many adventures we all went on, things that we were supposed to do, things that we weren't supposed to do, but it was good because, you were just with Ivor, You never knew. That was the excitement about it too. You never knew what was going to happen. But, once again, talking about Ivor's character, he really was a person that was, true to who he was, right? When you walked around Freeman High School, we all went to Freeman High School, he was somebody that commanded respect. You just saw greatness on him. You just saw that greatness that was on him. We didn't know what it was going to be, but we see what it is now. We see everything that y'all are doing right now. That's what it was. We didn't know, but he had a plan. God had a plan for his life. So it was not in vain, right? But, I just remember admiring him, how Malik said, everything he touched in sports, he was a dog. We would be in gym class, and I would just be amazed by how this man could do anything. I was like, what? That is not fair. That's just not fair. We would be playing basketball. Okay, yeah, Ivor, basketball player, basketball star. Cool, he got that. We play, we run around, do stuff. Cool, got that. We play baseball. This man's hitting home runs in gym class. I'm like, are you serious? And then go to the next class like nothing happened. And so, just stuff like that always had me in wonder and had me in awe. But, it was definitely a pleasure just getting to know him and just witnessing greatness, So, I don't want to take too much of y'all's time, and I just definitely wanted to say my experience, my true experience with Ivor. I remember one of our last experiences together, Miss Caroline, you took us to Virginia Beach, and we stayed out there, and we just, had dinner. We just had a good time. The weather was amazing, and that was one of the last few times I truly hung out with Ivor, and what a great experience. And, I love you both, and thank you all.
Platinum with a bunch of smoking bitches got me dizzy. I'm just saying Saint Laurent. When this the strain drops, it's a frenzy. Be careful how you talk. Nah, everybody friendly. I front you, you gon' pay me back. Everything just gon' be Fendi. Italy opened up the jar and it was empty. Ain't no wonder, blank a dance.